He's pulled the shirt on, scored the goals. Andy Campbell on the Red.
This is the Red.
Mr. Campbell, how the devil are you?
Good evening. Welcome again.
It's all changed.
I know.
It's all changed. We've
Nice new setup.
now got you in the radio station studio.
Ah, loving it.
It's all lashed up, held together by laggy bands and a bit of sticky back plastic.
Best way.
True Blue Peter style.
Best way.
How are you, mate?
I'm very good. Even better for seeing you.
Have you been... Oh, you say all the nice things. Have you been bored to tears over the international break?
Extremely busy. Extremely bored, sorry. I know we spoke earlier. I'm a little bit like a wounded animal. I'm just desperate for proper football to come back. You know, I am a passionate Englishman and I love my international football, but no, the bread and butter is Middlesbrough, and especially with how things have been going well. I just think the international break's come at a really bad time, and I'm hoping that Saturday we can get out the blocks really quickly and get a positive performance and result again.
I mean, we went into the break 5 straight wins, 4 in the league, obviously the cup win among that run as well.
Yeah.
Look, I loved the fact we had an international break last time because we were 7 without a win.
Good timing, yeah.
We got that international break in there. It gave us a chance to do stuff, and we've seen the benefits from that.
Yeah.
Are you that worried about the fact we've now had an international break when we've been on a decent run of form?
Yeah, I think a little bit, yeah, because I think the last time it came at the right time. Anything but a win, it's come at the wrong time, and I think it'll affect them. But I think it'll give lads an opportunity to have a little bit of a rest. I think games came thick and fast. There were some big games, some high intensity games, some games which I think caught up on a few. We had a couple of serious injuries and a couple of minor injuries as well. So I think it's really important that we regroup and get going again. We didn't really lose that many players in terms of international break, so it'll give the lads a little bit of togetherness. They'll be able to reset, go again, and hopefully be so ready for which is going to be a big game, by the way. It's a tough game. It was going to be a tough game anyway, but I think with certain factors it's going to be even tougher.
Yeah. If you want to get your comments through, you can. The usual, we're live on Facebook, Facebook Live, so get your comments in on Facebook Live. We are also live on the radio. So that means, because we're in the radio studio, you can get your WhatsApp messages in to Cammy, to Andy Campbell. The number to send them through to is 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. And in the background we've got Rob working his fingers to the bone. Just want to make sure all the audio's going out okay. Everything all right, Rob? Is everything brilliant? Everything good? Yeah, I hope so. You hope so? Okay. We can. Yeah, there you go. We can test. It's perfect, mate. Thank you. Yeah, so get your comments in as part of Cam's Red Army. So where are we going to start the chat? Where are we going to focus on? Because there's plenty happened.
Yeah.
We've got Wayne Rooney coming to town.
Yeah.
We can get your thoughts on that, and why would the team, when they're in 6th place, suddenly make such a change? I don't know. We've got the Boro, obviously. We've had a few internationals. We've got Akpom at Ajax. I mean, he's having a hell of a time there. So where do you want to start?
I think I'd like to start with Wayne Rooney. I think there's probably only one place to start. I think the game was going to be hard enough anyway, because you're playing against a side, in my opinion, was in form. You know, I watched the game on the Friday night before the manager unfortunately lost his job against West Brom, and I don't think they probably deserved to win the game. But in this league and how tough the division is, they got a really, really good result. They got a bit of luck. They got a really dodgy penalty, but they won the game. So to sack a manager when you're in the playoffs, winning games, winning a local derby was quite a strange decision. But I suppose when a manager of Wayne's name comes available, then they made that decision to probably go and kick on to another level. You know, he's obviously a bigger name than the previous manager. Yeah. But records speak for itself as well, and he hasn't got the best track record. He hasn't done great.
He hasn't got a good track record.
No, he hasn't, and he certainly hasn't in the Championship. And I think the Championship's such a cutthroat division. It's such a hard place to play football, you know. And Wayne followed a very, very experienced and very good manager in Frank Lampard in terms of Derby County. And Frank was always going to be a hard manager to follow with all the success that he had, and he was unlucky not to go to the Premier League. But for me, he underachieved with the squad that he had. You know what I mean? He left them in a bit of a hole. They managed to obviously turn that club around, but he went on to Pastures New. He's plied his trade. He's gone to the US to have a go. Again, not a great record, but another tough league. And to come back now in the playoffs, for me, I think he's on a hiding to nothing, in my opinion, because he's there to be shut down at. He couldn't have picked a worse game to start his tenure at the Riverside against a for me, the best manager in the league in terms of his ideas, the way that he wants to play.
Former teammates,
but I'm just hoping that it's kept to a bare minimal, and Michael can come out on top, because cream always rises to the top, and I think Wayne will come in with his own ideas. The only issue I've probably got, and my concern is, Wayne's had the window, the international window, to have a good work with the lads. I think that was obviously the plan by the board, for whatever reason they decided to bring him in. But he's had a little bit of time, 10 days or so, to work with his players, and that should give him enough time to work on things for this game, which is obviously a little bit of a concern. 2
points for me on Wayne Rooney. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this, and that's why it's your show, because you can give us your thoughts. And obviously everybody watching on Facebook Live, everybody listening on the Red, send us your comments in as well. We've got a few coming in on Facebook Live. If you want to send us your comments in terms of WhatsApp straight into the studio, that number again is 0330 043 2002. WhatsApp messages, please, 0330 043 2002. 2 things for Wayne Rooney, which I'd love your thoughts on. The first is he a successful manager? Looking at his track record.
If you're looking at the facts, you're looking at the paper and how he's done, no, 100% no. People always said to me about that top class players don't make top class managers, and they're few and far between. Obviously Brian Robson came in, I'm a top class player, what I mean, and learned his trade, and you're never going to become a real world class manager overnight. You've got to learn your trade probably the hard way, and you've got to take baby steps. You've probably got to get sacked before you probably try again at a different club, and if you do get a really good start, that you're probably lucky. But you look at the Frank Lampard, you look at the Steven Gerrard, both of them lost their jobs, but they've gone on to different and probably bigger and better things later on in their careers. Wayne's gone down a little bit of a different route, and he's probably trying to find that opportunity, but the facts are that he's not been a success. He didn't set the world alight at Derby, he hasn't really set the world alight at DC, and now he's gone to a club which probably haven't got the high expectations, but they've got big owners who've got big ideas.
The fans have.
The fans have.
Birmingham's fans have.
The fans see them as the biggest club in.
You've played there
in the Black City.
Yeah.
It's a huge city, huge passionate city for football.
Yeah.
But when you've got Villa doing so well, when you've got Wolves doing so well, when you've got West Brom who've been doing better than Birmingham have, for me they're the fourth out of the clubs I've just mentioned, and that's without other clubs in and around who are picking up here and there and doing what they need to do. And it's such a cutthroat industry, football, and I think that's probably why John Eustace lost his job, unfortunately. And especially I think he did okay.
Place in the table,
a
decent start of the season, just because they wanted image, I'm sure.
But we've been there before, though, Dave, haven't we? We've been there, Middlesbrough, that there's big managers here who've lost their jobs after being in the playoffs and being sacked after very good wins.
Gareth went in second spot, didn't he?
Yeah, after a big midweek win. So, there's obviously been plans put in place previously. It's I don't know. Obviously, they've got aspirations, quite big aspirations, obviously, with where they want to go. But the league's such a tough league, and have they got the squad to sustain it? The only time will tell. Have they got the manager to sustain it? He's on the pedestal now to be shot down at. He's got to hold the pressure himself. He's brought in some obviously staff that he trusts. He's got Ashley Cole alongside him, another good strong staff as well. So, listen, it'll be an interesting one. I think Saturday will be quite guts and thunder. I think he'll bring the passion out of the players. If he can get an extra 5-10% out there where they've been playing, then that's the positive, I guess. But for me, that then again makes it a dangerous game. But then, you want to be, as a player, you want to play in these big games. And as a Middlesbrough player, coming off the back of the Sunderland game, you look into the next game, and the next game doesn't come any bigger than a Wayne Rooney side in a playoff place.
Because outside of the Premier League, the national attention will be focused on Wayne Rooney. Yeah. He's back in England. He's gone to Birmingham. Happens to be playing the Boro at the Riverside. So the national eye, from a championship perspective, will be firmly focused on the Riverside.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know that? Do you feel that as a player? Do you realise that as a player, or do you not see that sort of thing?
I think so. Well, I think when I played, I think it was always nice for someone else to take the focus. I think because when you're a player, you just want to go and play, and when the focus isn't on you as a player, and it's on the. Probably when Terry came in. When Terry came in, the focus went on Terry Venables, and when Terry Venables came in, the focus 100% was on him, and it took the pressure off the players. And I think that's why we picked up some decent results, because the players were more relaxed. Terry and the manager took the brunt of the pressure, or probably all of the pressure, and we just went out and just did what we needed to do. And I think I think that's what probably the football clubs looked at Birmingham City, and the players will play with no fear. But they played with no fear all season. That's why they are where they are in the league. The league tables are a tough league at the best of times. So if you sat in 6th place or 5th place, for me they're overachieving. But hopefully the job further out after Saturday afternoon.
I want you to take your managerial hat off, which you can wear at times because you've done a bit. Put your player's hat on. Now, you're in that dressing room, Birmingham dressing room. Eustace has gone. A lot of those guys, there's a lot of fresh talent came in over the summer. Some good players as well. I mean, we're talking players from Bournemouth, etc., etc. So they're sitting there. They see the guy who's brought them in go. They're seeing themselves have a decent start to the season, but yet there's a change of manager, and Wayne Rooney walks through the door. Now, when he went to Derby, the club was in crisis. They ended up playing half a team of youngsters because of all the financial restraints that they had around them. They let most of their decent players go to cut the wage bill because the club would look like it was going into administration at one point. So, that's his experience there. A lot of young players not at the top end of their careers. He then goes to the States where it would have been the old LA Hollywood dazzle. Oh, it's Wayne Rooney. He seemed to get found out there in the US. He had to leave. DC United got rid of him. Now he's come into Birmingham with a dressing room full of talented and experienced players. It's going to be a completely different atmosphere for him to walk into. How would the players that experienced and that talented look at Wayne Rooney coming through the door now?
Worried. I think if you're a footballer, your new manager comes in, you're worried because you've impressed the manager who you needed to impress. You're now having to impress again. You're now having to start all over again because you have a bad game on Saturday, then you potentially could be out the team. You don't train well in the last couple of days. You don't play on Saturday. It's a very, very strange situation as when a new manager comes in because everyone's on an even keel. Everyone's got an opportunity to fight for places. You have a good couple of days training. You play well in a behind closed doors game. You're going to get an opportunity to start, and I'm sure Wayne will have issued that to all his players, for the lads who haven't been playing, for the lads who've been starting week in, week out. And I think as a player, it's a worrying time because you're starting all over again, and if sometimes your face doesn't fit. I'll go back to my time at Middles when Steve McLaren came in. That I was very happy when Brian Robson was in. Very happy. I was playing week in, week out, regular football. I was confident. I had a manager who believed in me. He was like a father figure in terms of off the pitch. So I could always go to him for advice. And a new manager comes in who just doesn't like the way that you play and wants to bring in new players to take a position. It hurts you. It damages your confidence, and you don't feel as it's like the same person, the same player. You worry about going to training. You worry about playing games because you don't feel as though you're going to get the same opportunities, and there's probably the same fairness, And when your face doesn't fit, sometimes you've got to move on. And football's that cutthroat that Wayne will have his players and a list of players that he wants to bring in up to Christmas, So he'll be looking already at January window. So there'll be players there who will have to watch the backs and have to perform from minute one, and that starts Saturday. And I think that again makes it even more dangerous. But at the same time, as a player, I know that if you're under pressure, you don't play to your full capabilities. You play better when you're relaxed and you're confident and you're inspired by your manager and says all the right things. I think sometimes when you're looking over your shoulder and you're watching new players come in, new managers come in, it can have a little bit of a concern and mess with your mind a little bit.
And just focusing on Rooney, I don't want to labour the point, but if I was to walk through that door and say to the lads, right, I'm a new gaffer, they'll say, who the hell are you? So there'll be no respect whatsoever. Wayne Rooney walks through the door, but Wayne Rooney brings with him an unsuccessful managerial record to date, but he is Wayne Rooney. Which of those two are going to win out in terms of getting the lads on the side quickly, gaining that respect? Will the real seasoned pros go, but what have you done in management, Wayne? Or will they go, it's Wayne Rooney, I've got to pull my puddings out for him?
I think it's quite a catch-22 situation. I think the centre forwards at the football club will love it because they can learn so much from Wayne as a footballer. I think he'll still be able to advise, he'll still be able to join in, especially the shooting kind of drills, and give his experience to those players, especially younger players. And I'll probably compare it to Frank Lampard. I spoke to a lot of players who were inspired by him, especially midfield players, because he can pass his knowledge on to positioning, his knowledge of a position.
Why did Janino come to the Boro? Because Brian Robson
exactly asked him. You know what I mean? Because it's that important, and I think that role. But he's brought in other players. He's brought in Ashley Cole, who can work with defenders, and I think sometimes it's important to bring the right people with you. You know what I mean? You look at Michael Carrick. He's got a good blend of staff with him. He's got a good knowledge. He works with probably the whole range of players, but he can pass on to Hayden Hackney, for example, how to be a top midfield player. Jonathan Woodgate can pass on his experience with Dale Fry and Lenihan in the back four to be a top international defender. And you've got a goalkeeping coach, as you know. Sometimes having that specialist position can get another 10-15% and bring out the best of you. But I think it's a difficult one because I think the season pros, I think it'll excite the younger players more than that'll inspire the older players.
Yeah.
But the older players are the ones who know this league inside out, you know. And I look at the Middlesbrough players, and sometimes the consistency and the continuity that we were asking questions when we were doing Pooley. Is Michael the right man for the job? Is the grass greener somewhere else? I think just seeing that unfold at Birmingham, the grass isn't greener because there's not really a top manager with a great track record who's available, because if there were, all the clubs would attack the manager and bring that person in, you know. So it's sometimes you've got to stick to what you know. I think you look at Middlesbrough, for example, that Michael's got the best out of players, especially the last 5 games. We're on a really good roll. We're in a really good place physically, mentally, results wise. We've got a really tough week this week with Birmingham, then Norwich, and then Stoke, and obviously then the cup game after, which is a little bit of a free one, but we're in a position now where you're starting to see the Wembley Towers in the distance, you know. So I think it's really important that you take one game at a time. The Birmingham one looks after itself, because if you're not looking forward and not up for a Birmingham City game with Wayne Rooney and all what goes with that, then you probably shouldn't be in football, to be fair.
Yeah. Let's get into a few of the comments. You can comment Facebook Live as usual. Also, we're live on the Red, so you can send us your WhatsApp messages. That number, just get it in your phone, will you? Just open it up, type it in, save it. 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. Stu Gawley, evening. You back again, Dave. So you're trying to get rid of me, but somehow I managed to, as you said, Cammy, come on, let's get in the radio studio. You can't press the buttons yet, so I've got to sit there. It's the only way I get back on the show. Mohammed Ibrahim, up the Boro, tough game versus Birmingham. Wayne Rooney's first game, absolutely. Tracy, evening all. I had Tracy. Mo Ibra, Wayne Rooney's a bizarre appointment at Birmingham. Is it bizarre?
I think so, and it's probably a good way to describe it. I think it's more of a circus, you know. I think it's more of a name drop than it is probably anything else, you know. Because for me, John Eustace didn't deserve to get the sack. John Eustace didn't deserve it. From where he's been, as an ex-Birmingham City player, ex-Birmingham City, you know what I mean, stalwart in terms of where he's been at the club and how he's worked in the Midlands area for football at Coventry, etc. And to be given the sack after a really good result and performance really against West Brom side was a very strange call. So I think it was quite bizarre, how it all unfolded, because once you seen that Wayne left his role at DC, you knew something was happening, because things don't happen, and you know what I mean, he was definitely coming across the pond, and it was just the first club to sack the manager first, so he was going to go to.
Michael Llewellyn, bring on Birmingham, up the Borough. Stu Gawley, nothing but 3 points Saturday. I suppose there is that urgency, isn't there? And maybe it is a good opportunity to play Birmingham. Matty Proudman, now lads, Eustace hasn't lost his job for poor results. The club see the club going in a different way, and I will be honest, it baffles me that they've taken on Rooney with a bang average record. Wayne Rooney Birmingham doesn't worry me. It's a long one, this, Matty. Players will be more than aware of what's at stake. 5 wins on the spin. He's talking Borough players here in the league. Should be a great atmosphere. And then goes on to add another. It's chapter and verse. It's War and Peace, this thing. Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, both the same, if not bigger than Rooney. They haven't delivered. His name will gain him respect from the players, but if results don't come, then the players will soon forget that. Oh, hang on, it's just gone off the screen because it's so long. Soon forget the player you were and look at the manager you are. I think it's more pressure for those high-profile players who become managers so early on in their managerial careers. I suppose there is that possibility of it not working. You know, he doesn't bring a successful managerial track record, but he is Wayne Rooney. We're catching him on his first game, so things will have changed. Is there a chance we could catch him cold?
100%. You know, listen, he won't know his players inside out. He won't know them like Michael knows his players. He won't know the real strengths. He won't probably see the weaknesses because he hasn't played against a top side, but he will do on Saturday, and I think we could catch them really cold if we hit them early. It'd be such a different game than it will have been in Sunderland, because I think we soaked up obviously a lot of pressure. I think we've got to be on front foot. We've got to play positive forward front foot football. I'm excited for it. I think it's a really good one. I think Wayne Rooney, the footballer, different class, world class, had a great career, an unbelievable career, one of the best. Wayne Rooney's a manager. He starts again. He's in terms of football, he's a nobody. Like, everyone's got to start. You start at zero and you've got to build yourself up. And I think he's got to earn that reputation. Hasn't worked out so far. He's tried, and now he's got to start delivering. Because how many opportunities to get? You look at Matty mentioned him there, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, that how many opportunities have they had since they've lost their jobs? You know what I mean? Steven's had to go out to Saudi, and Frank keeps going back to Chelsea as an interim, but doesn't seem to get opportunities in the UK. You know, so it's quite a cutthroat industry. You know what I mean? You can be a top player.
Yeah.
And through those three just alone, world class players. People get asked all the time. Gary Neville on Monday Night Football, Rio Ferdinand's, why Jamie Carragher's, why didn't you try and manage it? Because it's not stupid, you know. It can kill your reputation.
I know you're only a young lad, Andy, but I still point back to Bobby Charlton.
Yeah.
Bobby Charlton at the time was one of the greatest England players there was on the pitch. He hung his boots up, picked up the managerial coat, and he got out of it as quickly as he could. Yeah. He just couldn't cut it. Yeah, and
I watch a lot of Gary Neville on his podcast in the Overlap, and he says the same thing. You know, it was just too big of a job for him, and for a footballer who's played at the top level, played for his country, he's been at the biggest club in the world all the way through. He's worked with the best manager in football history potentially.
Yeah.
For him to say that he was out of his depth is quite a bold statement and quite an honest statement, you know. And I think sometimes managing is just not for you, you know. I haven't done it at the level that these guys have done it, and it's a tough job. It's not.
I was going to ask you, how did you find it?
Tough, mentally really tough. The biggest thing I found is when you lose, you take it to heart. It ruins your week, it ruins your weekend. You can't wait to go and get another game. When you win, you can't enjoy it, because then you look to the next game, you know, your players enjoy it, everyone else seems to enjoy it, but you just don't seem to enjoy it. And then where does the enjoyment come? You know, it's like you can't wait for the end of the season, and then you start straight again, look for the next season. It's really tough mentally, physically. The stresses are involved are quite strong, and yeah, it's just, but it's a real good opportunity, and I wouldn't change it for the world, but it is extremely stressful.
Stu Gawley's been on. We have momentum, confidence for the weekend. Wazza's boys will be learning what he wants on Saturday. If he can't manage in the USA, then he'll struggle in this league.
Momentum. I hope we do have momentum. I'm just hoping this bit of a break hasn't ruined that momentum, because it potentially could have, you know, because people have been away. We come back, we've had a lot of training, we've had a lot of downtime, and hopefully, you know, maybe there'll be a build up and a process ready for this game, and then obviously midweek game as well. The games are coming thick and fast, which are important, I think, as a player, especially when you're winning games, you're playing well, you're looking up now instead of looking down, and in and around you. There's some big clubs coming up that we're playing. Obviously Birmingham in the playoffs, Norwich above us, Stoke in and around us, you know. So those three games especially are going to be three massive games, because all four teams I'm talking about, Middlesbrough, Birmingham, Norwich and Stoke, you're all big clubs with nice stadiums, massive owners, good heritage, good history of football clubs. So it's exciting times, huge.
Yeah, huge. I suppose you could question Norwich, no you can't. But I mean, we'll focus on the game itself in some detail very soon. But you know, just leaving Wayne to one side, and we'll come back to it a bit later. Obviously, this week there was the report that's hit the Gazette in the last 24 hours. Chuba really struggling at Ajax, not getting his game, bench player. Coach who signed him coming out and saying he's not sure if his new signings yet are Ajax quality, which doesn't say an awful lot, does it? Doesn't give you full of confidence. What are your thoughts on Chuba?
Listen, I thought it was a quite a strange signing for them. You know, I thought it was a great move for the boy. You know what I mean? I thought it was a really good. You know what I mean?
You're not going to turn it down, are you?
You're going to a club with a huge history, Champions League football, team who potentially can win the league week season after season and the cup season after season. So he's for him, he's picked the right club. Obviously before he signed. I think now and I've been watching and looking, and to go to Champions League didn't get a game, Europa League not getting games, the league they've dropped so many points, hasn't got an opportunity. You know what I mean? For a manager to come out and make those kind of bold statements is quite hurtful for a player. You know, that you start questioning, have I made the right decision? Am I playing for the right manager? Yes, the manager's obviously under pressure, but to then come out and to say those kind of things is quite demeaning to a footballer and to a person, and I think it's quite disrespectful. I'd be very surprised if he's there in January, but if you spent 25-30 million pound on him, he's going to play him. I think you got him quite cheap in terms of, because he was in the last year of his contract, so it wasn't really a risk for the football club, but he sees him every day. He sees him at the standard that the players are playing, and he picks the team, and he's judged by results, and but they're not scoring as many goals. I don't see why he's not getting opportunity to flourish, and you're only as good as the last season, you're only as good as the last game, and last season he scored 25 plus goals, so he's, for me, why can't he and why shouldn't he get an opportunity?
They're playing him as an out-and-out number 9, which is where during his career he's played and not lit the blue touch paper. It was when he dropped slightly deeper
he struggled
and was picking the ball up last season that it all happened for him. Could that be something a new manager would look at and think, hang on, how was he so successful just last season and he isn't now? Would he look at that, or I don't know? How do you approach this as a manager?
It's interesting how
you just slag the player off like it sounds like he is doing.
What he signed him for? You know what I mean? Is he signed him as a 9? Does he see him as a 9? If he sees him as a 9, then you've got to develop a style of football and a philosophy around that 9 and build the team around the player and find his strengths. If that's getting the ball to his feet, he doesn't like to fight defenders, he doesn't like to go the other way, he likes to get pockets of space in between the defence and midfield, and he drives at people, he makes things happen, he ghosts in the box. The goals he scored for Middlesbrough last year, he was unmarked for probably 75% of his goals in terms of ghosting in the box, finding the ball outside the box, whipping balls in. If he signed him without watching those kind of things, then it was the daftest, It's has he signed him?
Well, he did have a director of football, didn't he, who left?
Yeah. Has he signed him? Is it a director of football signing? Is it a sporting director? If managers and clubs, if clubs are signing these players and giving them to managers to work with, it's such the wrong model, because for certain clubs can do it if you're at a certain level. The players at that level, and players can just fit in that mould. But if you sign him as a 9, he's got the wrong player. If you sign him as a 10 and someone to play out wide and make things happen, Tuber will do that. We all know we were excited by every time we got the ball. We were excited by something. Every time he played up as a 9 and he's got his back to goal, he really struggled. He didn't like to fight. He didn't like to battle with centre halves. Centre halves got the better of him. So I think if he's going to be playing as a 9, he's going to be such the wrong side, and he's going to really struggle up until probably the transfer window opens. But we've been there when we've loaned him out, and he's not had the best opportunity as a loan player as well. So I'm hoping this doesn't have a negative impact on his career, because he's obviously signed a long-term deal. It's a good move for him financially and career-wise, but he wants to play. He's gone from playing week in, week out for a full season to
being a hero.
And to be a legend at a club who wanted him to stay, who I'd like to think the club did want to offer him a contract, and the contract was on the table, but he decided to go on pastures new, because and every player's got that right and decision to do it. But it is heartbreaking for a Middlesbrough fan to see what might have been, because he sat there doing nothing, and we would have flourished with him in the side, because I couldn't think the way that Josh Corbyn's playing, Tube would absolutely excel playing in behind him.
Tell me, from a player's perspective, how important is confidence and self-belief?
Huge.
Because he'll be lacking it at the moment.
Huge. I think. Listen, when you've signed for a new club, and I'll put my own past experiences. I signed for Cardiff City, and I started playing a little bit, but then obviously I came out, and Robert Earnshaw started scoring goals and keeping me out, and it was the longest 9 months of my life that I'm sat there thinking, am I good enough? Have I made the right choice? I'm sat at home, I'm away from my family, I'm in a different country. I know I'm still in the UK, but I'm in a different country. I'm miles away from everybody else. I'm upset. I'm worried about what's happening in terms of my career, and it absolutely just messes with your mind. And you go into training every day. You're wondering, am I going to play on Saturday? You do team play. You're not in the manager's plans. You're upset. You're angry. You're frustrated. You're making some erratic choices off the pitch. You're doing things that you probably wouldn't normally do, and it's quite upsetting, and it hurts people around you as well. It's you start to do different things, and you live a different lifestyle, and it can play mind games with you, play tricks with you. And I think it's so important that you have the right people around you, who say the right things, who guide you, who are there for you to pick you up when you're falling, and pick you up, because confidence is such for me the biggest part, especially as a centre forward. You know what I mean? Because if he plays, he's going to have to score. He has to score, because there's that much pressure on him now. That he's got to try and light that touch paper and start from the off. But if you're not getting the opportunity, you're coming on for 5-10 minutes even there at most, then what chance have you got? Yeah,
we saw him coming on 89 minutes in a game just a couple of weeks ago. There was a 5 or 6 added at the end, but it's not an awful lot, is it?
No, it's not enough time.
I suppose one way of getting your confidence back is to go out on loan.
Yeah.
Would you have him back?
100%. I think it would be a no-brainer, and I think it would probably be the best way that we could have probably done it, in terms of get a transfer fee for him and bring him back and get his confidence back, and maybe bring him back potentially full time on a long-term deal, because it would start all over again. But the damage it might have done confidence-wise, who knows what that's done, because obviously we might be in a real different position when the transfer window opens in January, in terms of the way the season started and panned out. But I say the individual, the player, he deserves a little bit more. He deserves a little bit more respect for what he achieved last year alone. So I think the way he's been handled as a person is poor. As a player, it's not good enough, and hopefully he can get the opportunity, because players just want to play. He could have stayed here and got paid. He could have gone to another club and got paid. He could have got in the Premier League to sign for a Sheffield United.
Well, I think a lot of it was his agent. I'm sure a lot of it would have been his agent saying, we can get more money for you. We can get more money for you.
Yeah, but end of the day, players just want to play, and now he'll be really wounded, because they play different days on, but every weekend he's turning up wanting to play, and he doesn't play, and he'll be going home after a game, and it's not the same. You don't have that kind of appetite just to sit and pick your wages up without getting the rewards.
So let's say in January things haven't improved at Ajax, and suddenly Ajax decide they could send him out on loan. It would be a relatively easy choice to say, look, he was so successful at Boro, it's going to give him that injection of confidence just by going back there. But from a Boro perspective, we've got Latte Lath now. We've got Josh Coburn back in the starting side. We've got Matty Crooks doing his bit as well, and chipping in with the odd goal. Is there a place for Akpom? Would you do some damage taking a loanee in?
Listen, I think you can have too many players, you can have too many options, but I think when the options are that good, I think sometimes you've got to take that risk. If a good player comes available like that, I think you've got to snap their hands off. I think if anything did happen or could happen, I think you've got to see it as what it is, and for someone who could make the difference in terms of getting us over the line, in terms of a playoff player, so getting us over the line in terms of winning that semi-final, I think that those are the risks. It's risk and reward. You've got to take the risk to get the reward, and if that came available for me, you have to take that risk, because if you didn't and you weren't successful and you just didn't meet the criteria towards the end of the season, you'd it's not the risk and the reward that you wanted.
I'd like to throw that out to the fans if we can. Joe Shaw, will you let
perfect.
me? Good man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you have Tuba back if he was available on loan in January?
Absolutely.
You can give us a comment on Facebook Live. You can also WhatsApp the studio. We're in the Red Studio, the radio studio, 0330 043 2002. And if I can just give a plug, just to let you know, the Red will be live on DAB radio across Teesside. The first phase of our DAB coverage of Teesside on November the 1st. So just literally a week and a bit away, 2 weeks away maximum. We're going to be live on your radio. You can pick us up at home, in your cars, whatever you want to do. DAB radio on Teesside, November the 1st. Where do you want to go next, mate? Where are we going to go next?
I think I'd like to. Let's just talk Championship. I think how exciting the Championship is. I look at the league table. I look at Leicester City. I look at how exciting that they've made it. There's always a team who runs away with the league. There's always a team who everyone's there to be shot at. I think, was they expecting it to be Leicester? Probably not. They brought in a relatively new manager in terms of experience doing that full-time role.
Decent players though.
But he's brought the right players in. I look at the Conor Codys of this world, and your Spania team. He's still obviously got the Jamie Vardys, the Iheanachos. They're all international class players. So when you've got those kind of players, you've always got half a chance. But it's how they adapt back to this league. Because they've been in the Premier League for so long. They've achieved so much in a short space of time. You've still got Premier League winners in that squad in that football club, so it's how they adapted in terms of coming down and have just taken it like a duck to water, whereas the Southamptons, they've been a lot of change. They've probably lost a lot more players. Leeds United got a nucleus of squads, changed managers. Sometimes it just doesn't work. But when you've got the players and you've got the Spania team, and you've got a nucleus of experience, I think experience is key. And we talk our team, our squad. We kept the nucleus of our squad. We kept the main spine of our team, in terms of, it's experience-wise. We've got an experienced goalkeeper who knows the league. All the top side in our league have also done the same thing, and they've also looked at just the best ways of getting the maximum out of their squads. And the teams who are struggling, the Sheffield Wednesdays, who come up to the league thinking that we're going to keep the same squad, we're going to try and take a risk, hoping that we can do well and giving players an opportunity. Unfortunately, the league's cutthroat. The league doesn't save any prisoners. It's very, very, very tough, and nobody gives you an opportunity if you don't give it your all.
The infamous supercomputer had to say over the last 24 hours. We were taking the mick out of it, but we were taking the mick out of Steve Wraith, who's the Newcastle fan on the North East Footy Breakfast on the radio stations this morning, because he called it a super computer. Super computer. It's great phrase for a Geordie. It's predicting Leicester's going to run away with the title, which is not a difficult one, but it's also predicting that Sunderland will go up second place automatically. But it's kept Boro out of the top 6.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how those things are predicted. You got your points per game. You've got expected points, garbage. Expected goals. Listen, you know what I mean. For me, those things are those things are there to be broken. Those things are there to be shot at, and hopefully prove it wrong. You know, obviously we beat Sunderland 4-0. It wasn't a 4-0 game. Look at Ipswich Town. You know, for me, you've got to look at managers and coaches as well as players who have had a real good start in their managerial journey. You know what I mean, like Michael did last year, but still, cream always rises. Michael was let down in terms of probably personnel this year at the start of the season. He didn't have his players in place for the first game of the season that he probably needed or wanted, whereas other teams have had their players throughout pre-season from the off, which I think is so important. And I think if the club can look back at the start of the season and understand where the mistakes were made. That was where the mistakes were made. You know, that you bring in players in who are probably 2 or 3 weeks behind fitness, 2 or 3 weeks behind in terms of knowing the area, knowing your own teammates, knowing the league. It's such a difficult place to come in England to try your football and play your football. But then to live in a new country, new area, new teammates. Different opposition. You're playing with the expectation of the fans, and rightly so. Especially after last season, I think there were so many factors which was always going to come to a head, which give it a negative start, which unfortunately has left us in the position that we're in. But we now hopefully turn things around and players are getting up to speed. I just hope when it comes to the end of the season we don't miss out on something by 5-6 points, because it'll just be such a disappointment if that's a top 2 place, if that's, you know what I mean, because you look back and think it's the start of the season and everyone will zone in on that, and it'll just be such a letdown.
Okay, let's dip into a couple of comments here. Stu Gawley, Tuba move was bad all round for all parties. I think the Borough would have been happy to get some cash from them, mate. What else is on here? It's hang on, my screen keeps moving. What's going on with my screen? There's gremlins in the old system here. Chris Ryan, Carrick brought the best out of Tuba. Should have stayed at the Borough, but it was his choice up the Borough. We did ask the question, would you have him back on loan, didn't we?
Yeah.
Richard Jones, nope. That's it.
Fair one.
Yeah, it's a fair one. Stu Golly, come on, Dave, have a word. Thanks, mate. Michael Llewellyn, yes, defo.
Yeah.
Bring him back.
Dave, I think it's very 50-50. I think it's either side of the fence, isn't it? I think people feel a little bit let down that he left. People feel a little bit that they want the hero back. You know what I mean? It's like Janino, isn't it? Listen, when Janino left, you know what I mean, the opportunity was for him to come back on loan after his injury from Atletico Madrid. We were heartbroken when he left, but when the opportunity for him to come back, we all wanted it. Players wanted it. The manager obviously wanted it. Yeah, we all wanted it. We all knew how good he was. We all knew the excitement that he brings. We all knew that, especially for me as a footballer, you know, that I was more experienced in terms of stature. I'd played more games. I wanted to go and play with him. I wanted to have more game time with him, train more with him and learn more from him. And I think for me it was a no-brainer, and it was exciting in it. But it didn't work out the way that it worked out the first time.
Correct.
So obviously the on the flip side of, do we want him back? He comes back, he doesn't score any goals, he leaves the club the second time round as less of a hero. So I think sometimes people say never go back. You know, so as a player, he would have a decision to make. But
if Tuba came back and scored 15 goals, that's a contribution. Worthwhile?
If Tuba came back and scored the goal what put us in the playoffs, or he came back to put us in the playoff final, or put us back to score with the winner of the playoff final.
You'll know all about that, mate.
Exactly.
Scoring goals in playoffs.
It's one goal. You know what I mean? All it takes for a centre forward is to score one really important goal, and if that goal puts you in the playoffs, it saves you from getting relegated, it wins you a title. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if he scores 25 goals or just that one important goal. You know, so I think those kind of decisions that we know, and the fans know, and the manager knows, and the players know deep down that they would probably have him back tomorrow if an opportunity arose.
Stu Gawley, he loves firing the comments in, which is great. Keep it going, Stu, and anybody else can. You can do it via the Red on WhatsApp into the studio here, 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. We can take calls live on air now, by the way.
Yeah, excellent.
That's good, yeah. So you give us a bell, WhatsApp. You can WhatsApp live. You can do a WhatsApp call. That's what I'm trying to say. 0330 043 2002. Or you can send us, as we're getting now, messages. So we're getting messages on the Facebook live feed. Stu Gawley, if we make the playoffs, then have a better go at getting over the line this season. I think that's fairly obvious, Stu. That's fairly obvious.
Well, we couldn't do any worse.
We don't want to get in the playoffs and fluff our lines, do we?
Yeah.
So this weekend, I'm concerned we've had the international break.
Mm-hmm.
What will have been done behind the scenes to keep that momentum somehow, in the jar for them to just open the lid and flick the switch straight back on again this weekend?
I think the lads will regroup. They'll rested after the Sunderland game. So I think it was such an intense game. I think you've seen how together they were. Every time we scored, how together they were. It was really that was for me was the biggest plus of the whole afternoon. How together everybody was. Michael's celebration after I think the third goal. You know what I mean? I think he knew then that was game over. The passion he showed. He'll have regrouped, he'll have worked on things. It gives us, we talk about the way that Birmingham can work on things for 10 days. We've done exactly the same. So we've looked at their strengths, the way that they're probably going to set up, which personnel they're going to use, and our players will be well ready. I think they'll be so confident going into to the weekend. Hopefully like wounded animals that they can go and bite them straight away from minute one and just get at them and attack them, because it's a game there that we can't afford to drop points from me. I think it's a game there that we should expect to win, regardless where they are in the league. I think we will win. I think we'll hit them really quick with an intensity, and I think the fans have got a huge role to play. There's no better place at the Riverside when the fans are bang on. The fans are on it, and I believe after the last 5 games, and especially after the derby win against Sunderland, that the fans will be absolutely behind every one of those players, and rightly so. I've
got a spare ticket for the game as well. I might as well give that away. If anybody wants to go to the game with me, just give me a shout. You don't know how bad I am. Somebody sitting next to him, I'm telling you. So it's a game we should win, and I agree with it. It's a game we should win. I feel we will win it. I just think there's too much. There's been too much upset in Birmingham, in the Birmingham camp, with Eustace going, his players, his signings, sitting there scratching their head, thinking, what's going on? This is the guy I had faith in, and then Rooney coming in, and I don't think he's the most successful of managers, but it's Wayne Rooney. There might be a little bit of a honeymoon period that he's allowed more than the new manager, but I just feel the run we got into, as long as we get straight back into it, then we stand a great shout. What sort of changes would you have, formation wise, personnel wise, from the Sunderland game?
To be honest, I think he's going to have to go. Fitness obviously important. I think if everyone is fit from the Sunderland game, I think you've got to go like for like. You've got to keep the same group. I think Sam Greenwood deserves another opportunity. I was surprised that he started that game. Obviously,
horses for courses. It was a great one for him, wasn't it? Being a former Sunderland lad,
being a Sunderland lad and scoring his first Middlesbrough goal. He couldn't have come at a better time. We obviously needed it as well. You know what I mean? The way that the game was going, we needed to get that opportunity, that goal. And I think to carry on and have your next game at the Riverside, I think it's important. I think Josh is going to start firing goals, which marry his performances. I think his performances have been excellent, but when he starts scoring goals, I think he'll flourish as a footballer. And I think we look dangerous. I thought Isaiah was electric, especially second half. He's making things happen. He's now bringing goals and assists to his game and improving his stats week in, week out. I think it's so important that we do that again. That we keep creating chances. We spoke about all season, haven't we, that we've been creating chances. We just haven't had the goals or the goal scorer. You know what I mean? We seem to score every time we look. We got the ball against Sunderland. You know what I mean? Especially second half. First half we missed a couple of decent half chances, but so did they. But it's, we spoke earlier on in the season that the first goal was important. I'm now starting to think the first goal is not important anymore, because being Middlesbrough Football Club, the way that Michael wants us to play, that I believe we can score 2, 3, 4 goals. You know what I mean? The way that we're starting to play.
And they're coming from all over the place.
They're coming from all over. Whereas start of the season, we were lucky if we were going to get one, so we needed to get that first goal. For me, if we get the first goal, we'll blow them away. If they do get the first goal, I don't panic. You know what I mean? Get behind the players. We'll get that equaliser. And we'll similar to Southampton, and we'll get the second goal. You know, I think it's really important that the fans play their role, because let's turn the Riverside into a fortress for the rest of the season. Let's get this Saturday game out the way, which I think is a dangerous game, and then let's see what the rest of the week brings, because with a free cup game coming up in 10 days or so, I think this week's going to be absolutely massive for Middlesbrough Football Club, and by the end of next weekend against Stoke City, we could be flying high in the playoffs,
because we're not that far away from the playoff spots now. I mean, those four wins on the belt, those 12 points have done us the power of good.
And now, especially
you look at Birmingham with 6th spot. Take 3 points off them, suddenly that gap's closing rapidly.
And Norwich, you know what I mean? Norwich are up there as well. Stoke are in and around us, you know, and teams are going to play each other. Teams are going to drop points above us. So I think it's really important that when we get an opportunity to take 3 big points, you know, I mean, talk about 6-pointers. Yeah, it's a 6-pointer in terms of getting in the playoffs. It's a 6-pointer because if Birmingham beat us or we don't beat them, we don't make any progress. Other teams can leapfrog us and go ahead of us. If we go and get 3 points off, then we close the gap. Yeah. And I think closing the gap's the biggest incentive, because it's not about the playoffs right now. It's about closing that gap and make sure the gap doesn't increase. You know what I mean? That's keeping a close eye on the Leeds United, the Sunderlands, the Ipswiches, you know, even the Leicesters, you know, that they've only dropped 3 points all season. So it's important that we don't continually drop any more points. It's important that we just try and stay as close as we can to the sides that we want to be in and around. And for me, the playoffs is where we can achieve something. But we can't afford the gap to be too big, because we're going to lose the game in the next month, few weeks. So we need to make sure that we close the gap in the games.
Oh, he of little faith.
Yeah, we'll
keep that running, that winning run going.
We will. Hopefully, I'd like us to win every game, but
that's the difference to see between a fan,
the realist,
and a player.
Yeah, the realist is we're going to lose games. We just need to make sure that the games that we lose, it has as least impact on position or distance and gap in the league table, really.
So it wouldn't. Let me get this right. It wouldn't necessarily be a problem losing to Leicester.
No,
but you wouldn't want to lose to Birmingham.
No, 100% no, because I think we can close the gap against them. You know what I mean? There's teams, even teams below you, down the bottom of the league. You don't want to lose against anybody. But listen, there's no team in the league who's going to go for the rest of the season unbeaten. You're not going to win every game for the rest of the season. Be realistic. You know, we just need to understand. That the journey that we've been on so far this season has been a roller coaster. We were bottom of the league 5 games ago.
It was the climb. It was the climb up the roller coaster for those first 7.
Yeah, and we're probably riding quite close to the top of that dip. And let's see how fast we can go down the dip before we can fly back up again. You know what I mean? Because it's going to come down, but then we'll get back up again.
I love the analogy.
Yeah, I just think it's important, and I think it's important that, but the players will understand that as well, because it's how you recover now. And I think, you know what I mean, a defeat will come. It's how the players recover from it quickly. And if that's that, you get back on it on a Wednesday and you get the points back on a Wednesday, then that's so important, because there's nothing worse than losing on a Saturday and having to wait for another 7 days or 8 days if you're playing Sunday for another game. You're just going to get back on that horse and ride it very quickly. Okay, so we're going to jump on the horse on Saturday. Where's the victory coming from? Where do you see us succeeding? I think we need to play to our strengths. We need to get the ball forward our front three as quickly as possible. We need to get crosses in the box, which we have. We need to get the ball to Isaiah Jones. We need to get the ball to Dale Fry on the left hand side and whipping balls in the box. That's what we need to do. I think it's important that we start hurting teams like teams have hurt us this season. You know, if we don't shoot, we don't score. And the times that we got in so many dangerous positions against Sunderland, we damaged them, we hurt them with the final end product. Yeah. And that end product hasn't been there all season. It certainly wasn't there at the start of the season. We just need to make sure that we learn from the mistakes that we probably made at the start of the season, get shots away, get crosses away, and be hard to beat. You know, I spoke quite rigorously about clean sheets, about wanting that Carrick style of football. It wasn't the boring style I wanted, but now we're keeping clean sheets but still playing that expansive way of playing. You know, I don't think we probably should have kept a clean sheet against Sunderland, because I think they missed some absolute gilt-edged chances, especially in the first half. But we got away with a couple, and because you ride your luck, sometimes you earn your luck, and I think we earned it a little bit now that we can go and take a few more risks, and now we're playing with a little bit more confidence, carrying that confidence on, because listen, we just need to make sure that we get the first goal, get the second goal, and see the game out very early. You know, if you can get a couple of goals up at half time, you can then take your foot off the pedal and just see the game out, and then look forward to the next game and save something for those kind of things, and those top sides are able to do that. Okay, then, prediction time.
We said win. We're going to win it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be as easy as we're thinking, but I still think we can pull one or two. We can still. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Boro win. Where you're at?
I'm going to go 2-1, and I've just spoke about clean sheets. I just think probably the Wayne Rooney factor. I think they're going to have something. If that gives them a good start and they get the first goal, then so be it. But we've got enough in the tank, enough quality in the squad, on the pitch, in the starting 11, in the 16, and whoever he names in the squad and brings on as a sub. 2-1 win.
2-1 win. Cool. It's becoming the Facebook page is becoming a bit of a social circle. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. So hello Stuart, hello Ian. Anthony has been on. He's made a couple of comments. UTFB couldn't possibly say that on the radio because we're live on the radio as well. So up the Boro, good man. And he's basically saying up the Boro Red Army and our best player ever, Andy Campbell. Have you paid him to say that? Wow.
A big statement.
That's a big statement, mate.
Big statement, yeah.
We've had Janino, we've had Ravanelli.
Yeah, he's probably right.
Yeah, our best player. Love it, absolutely love it. Tracy, 2-0 Boro. Stu Gawley, 3-0 Boro.
3-0. I'd take it. If we could guarantee that now, that'd be lovely. 2-0 at half time. Get the third early, and then just sit on it for the rest of the game and bring subs on, freshen things up.
Yeah.
Ready for Norwich. That'd be amazing.
That'd be a cruise.
Perfect scenario.
It would really be a cruise, right? Matey, we're done. We're done and dusted.
Absolutely flew by again.
Different environment this time. We'll get it sorted next time.
Yes,
we'll get a nice wide shot as well, so people can see. Rob, do we still have that wide shot so people can see it's a radio studio? It died. The camera died. Okay, well there you go. Oh well, we did try, but we're live on the radio. This is how we're going to be from now on. It'll look a bit tidier because we had a bit of a rush to get ready for tonight, mate. So and then we'll get you this side. You can press all the buttons and be a DJ.
No pressure.
What music do you like?
No pressure. Oh, a little bit of Lionel Richie.
A little bit of Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no doubt you'll be spinning a few discs then when you sit this side. Andy, absolute pleasure as always. Thanks, mate.
Thanks very much, everybody.
And I've got to play this. Rye, who's on the breakfast show on the Red, Mad Aussie.
Absolute nuts, Aussie.
This was his commentary when Latte last scored.
Rouse wins it back for Cardiff, and he flicks a quick cross in, cleared by Paddy McNair. And here we go, Latte laps away. He's so fast, he's a demon of speed. Here's Latte, can he finish? He's tripped over, finish. Latte
Listen, the cackle comes back.
Latte!
I think we'll have a few more of them against Birmingham.
I'd take a few of them.
Yeah, so would I. I don't know what he's been taking, but he's been taking something. Andy, tremendous, mate. We'll catch you very soon.
Thanks very much.
He's pulled the shirt on, scored the goals. Andy Campbell on the Red.
This is the